Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Madeira Cofield, and I'm the SBA Assistant Administrator for the Office of Women's Business Ownership. First, I want to say Happy Women's History Month, and I'd also like to welcome each and every one of you to another of SBA's Elevating Small Business event series. Today, we're celebrating Women's History Month and the contributions that women are making to the U.S. economy. This event is being recorded and it will be available to you after the program. It's my pleasure and honor to lead today's discussion. But first, let me share with you some of the background on myself and our office. As the Assistant Administrator for the Office of Women's Business Ownership, I have the honor of providing oversight, management, leadership, and championship of female entrepreneurship. I'm proud to oversee the largest expansion of the Women's Business Center network in the history of the Small Business Administration, with 141 women's business centers across the country. And I'd also like to just note that as of yesterday, we have expanded our national footprint to every state in the United States of America, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. Our office is also responsible for deploying nearly $70 million in federal grant making to support nonprofit organizations across the country as they work valiantly to ensure that women have an equitable seat at the table. And as I've shared with you some statistics about the work that our office is doing to support nearly 90,000 women entrepreneurs every year, I'd also like to share with you some statistics about women-owned small businesses and where we stand as the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment in the United States of America. According to the Census Bureau data, there are an estimated 1.1 million women-owned small businesses, of which 99.9% are employer firms. We also have 12 million women-owned small businesses that represent a huge portion and growing. As I mentioned, nearly half of the growth of small businesses across the country is coming from women as the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment, with 12 million total women-owned small businesses of the 32 million that the U.S. Small Business Administration has the honor of being able to represent. Importantly, women-owned firms also employ nearly 9.4 million workers. Women are represented across all sectors, with the majority of women-owned firms in healthcare, social assistance, and professional and scientific and technical services as well. So with that being said, the landscape looks bright. Women continue to grow, to scale, and to establish businesses for the future. And with that, I'd like to introduce our panelists today as we discuss the evolution of women in business and government contracting opportunities. I will call each of their names and then ask them to give us a brief high-level overview of their background. And I'll first just start by introducing all of the panelists, and then I will go back and ask them each to come back to stage. So today we're going to be hearing from Candace Waterman, President and CEO of Women Impacting Public Policy, Alicia Sheard, Acting Deputy Director of the Office of Government Contracting here at the U.S. Small Business Administration, and Michelle Sherrod, President and CEO of Accounting and Legal Logistics Solutions Incorporated from St. Louis, Missouri. With that being said, Candace, let me introduce you to the stage, and please share a little bit about your background and your organization with the audience.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Natalie and the SBA, for having me today in this important conversation. Happy Women's History Month to all of the women out there who are game changers and doing what needs to be done in their community every day. I am the President and CEO for Women Impacting Public Policy. We are more lovingly known in the industry as WIP. We are the leading national nonpartisan organization on the Hill for women in business. We represent the over 12.9 million women-owned businesses across the country, and we do that, as I say, encapsulated in 3 tiers. That's advocacy, community, and education. So we are on the Hill advocating for parity, equity, and inclusion for our women business owners in the supply chain, certainly for access to capital, and of course, access to the global marketplace. Our community of constituents being our women business owners, agency partners, and corporate partners in the private sector all make up our community who is really committed to the success of each other. And last, the E in our ACE principle is education. If I am on the Hill advocating for women to have access to procurement opportunities, we certainly want to ensure that they have the capacity to expand and fulfill on those particular opportunities that they have. I am looking forward to the conversation today, and I turn it back over to you, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Candace. Always great to share the stage with you. Next, we will bring up Alicia Sheard, who is the Acting Deputy Director for the Office of Government Contracting.
Awesome. I'm so excited and just glad to join you all today. Thank you again for having me with you, joining you today, Natalie, and happy Women's History Month. It's awesome to be a part of celebrating all the success that women have done throughout the years, including specifically our women-owned small businesses. So I am the acting director of the Office of Government Contracting here at SBA. And in that role, I oversee the Women-Owned Small Business Federal Contracting Program. In that program, we are serving a portfolio of over 5,000 small businesses. It is growing every single day. And so we love the high energy, the excitement, and the number of small businesses that are seeking to participate in this program because they want to be a part of leveling that playing field for women-owned small businesses in the federal marketplace. We do our best to also educate and increase awareness of the federal acquisition community by teaching them and telling them about the program and how to best utilize this program. So we are continuing to serve our audience by encouraging participation, encouraging getting certified, and encouraging firms to be ready, willing, and able to engage in the federal marketplace. So I'm happy to join you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I know you all have some special news to share, so I'll make sure to ask you some questions about some exciting announcements in the space of the Women-Owned Small Business Certification Program. Last but not least, Michelle Sherrod, President and CEO, Accounting and Legal and Logistics Solutions Incorporated. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you to the SBA for inviting me to be a voice for what the SBA has done for me. All of you on here have been instrumental in helping me with the success that I've had as a small business owner located in St. Louis, but operating nationally, doing accounting, legal, and logistics work on behalf of the federal government, in addition to running a janitorial service for the last 11 years. The services that you provide, and I like to think of it as CBE, continuing business education for professionals who are trying to make this thing happen. And you have done an amazing job of offering resources for us. So thank you for the opportunity to participate today.
Wonderful. So let's go ahead and jump into the conversation with some deep dive on a few questions. I'll make sure to call by name those who will go first in answering and in responding. So, you know, we're talking about government contracting, and it's so important. It's a great opportunity for female entrepreneurs and women-owned small businesses. And in fact, since 1994, the federal government has set the goal that 5% of government contracting dollars should go to women-owned small businesses, which again, I always like to say, the fastest growing entrepreneurial segment in the country. And so this goal has only been met twice, despite that growth and despite that goal. And so what are the barriers that remain to ensure the federal government is purchasing from our women-owned small businesses, and how can our small business owners find contracting opportunities? And I'll first start with Candace asking you about your thoughts on this question, and then Alicia, I'll move to you next.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for that question. As I say, it's probably one of the $1,000,000 questions, right? So when we talk about barriers and how women-owned businesses can find these opportunities, I think first and foremost we have to start with the opportunity itself and those who are providing the opportunities to our women-owned small business community. And I'd like to start with the contracting officers, right? So they really are the person or the people that sit in the seat that will be able to get contracts in the hands of our women-owned small businesses. And I think one of the barriers, as we have still, right, in response to having so much success, we still have a long way to go. And so I think one of the barriers is around the contracting officers' utilization of all of the socioeconomic programs, meaning WOSB, EDWOSB, 8A, and all of the others. And, you know, it's been shared with us from our membership that the WOSBs are having to educate the contracting officers on the program, and so that sort of is a barrier, if you will. So I think that as we continue on the success of reaching and, you know, exceeding that 5% goal, which we know has been increased, I think the contracting officers could benefit from training for these socioeconomic programs a little bit more, and I think it will then also aid the women-owned small business with now being able to just present what her service and product is, as opposed to feeling like she has to educate and then also present herself.
Wonderful. Thank you for your insights, Candace. Alicia, do you have any comments that you'd like to also add to this?
I would just kind of add on to what Candace has absolutely shared is absolutely correct. Continuing to educate our federal acquisition community is so critical and so important in playing a part in utilization. They need to know that, hey, this is how you can go about using this program. This is how you go about acquiring services from women-owned small businesses and letting them know women can do it too. You know, there are plenty of women-owned businesses that can get the job done and do it very, very well. One of the exciting things and to what you highlighted, Natalie, that I would love to announce is the expansion of industries. We've increased the pool from 444 NAICSCOs that were a part of the program to over 759 to be specific, that are available now to be awarded opportunities through the WSB program. And that is also so critical and important to make sure that our acquisition community knows, like, there are other industries and there are women-owned businesses in those industries that are ready to do business with the government and ready to be able to serve in whatever their mission may be.
Wonderful. And so let's hear from an actual practitioner in terms of her response. So we've heard from both Candace and Alicia on their perspectives, both as advocates as well as practitioners in this space. Michelle, I'd love to hear from you in terms of things that you did that aided you in marketing your small business to some of the very same contracting officers that we're talking about being able to get in front of, and any experiences you have that you think were valuable and beneficial to your continued success.
I think one of the hardest parts is sometimes we don't know what we don't know, that there is an absolute opportunity for women-owned small businesses to have set-asides that they can go after. We're not sure how to get certified. We're not sure what that means, where we can go, and how we can make it happen. So having training opportunities in which we are specifically directing it towards women-owned small businesses, going into the same database and calling it for women-owned businesses and reaching out to us directly and letting us know that this is an area that you're interested in finding capable, qualified businesses to pursue opportunities with the government. Those are the type of things that I took advantage of, is working with SBA, reaching out to some of the organizations that they work with to try to educate us on what does it take to do business with the federal government, and then trying to establish a relationship with the small business offices to let them know that I am here, responding to sources sought to let them know that I am capable of doing what they are looking for, and continuing to nurture that relationship so that when opportunities do present, that they know that I am here and willing to do the job and able to do the job.
Michelle, I'm going to stay with you for a second as I move into the next question, because I think you kind of started to prelude to it a little bit, right? Which is there's a lot that folks don't know that they don't know. And that's, again, where the SBA comes into play, right? With our national network of resource partners and networks, as I mentioned, our women's business centers across the country. What kind of resources did you tap into when you were first getting started, or even throughout your process, that were either government or private sector resources that our audience could also consider as they're learning, so that they can decrease the number of they don't knows what they don't know?
Right. The first thing I did is I reached out to the Small Business Administration. I attended a seminar that they were hosting, talking about their services. I scheduled a meeting and sat down and talked to them as they introduced me to SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, to talk to them and really help me to understand what is it that I want to do and what will it take for me to be successful. It's an amazing organization that can help you with everything from how will I register as a business to who are my competitors and how do I go after government contracts. That was incredibly helpful. As I became more familiar with contracting with the federal government, they introduced me to the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, which PTAC is phenomenal with helping you to work through, are you qualified to go after a contract that you are very passionate about, but may not be quite ready for. And so that kind of leadership, I look at all of these organizations as business partners, and many of the services that they provide are free or a nominal cost. They really help with being able to figure out how to navigate the landscape for going after federal contracts. I took advantage of their emerging leaders program that they had in order to work through, I think it was a 7-month program in which we went over the marketing aspects. We went over how to look for government contracts using some of the databases that were available at the time, how to make sure that you understood how to read it and how to respond to it, so that you would be potentially considered for it. So the SBA is a good starting point for where else can I go if you're a veteran, to be sent to the Veterans Center, which will also help you with business. So there are just so many resources out there that are free or at a nominal cost that are available for us to get our feet up under us and begin to pursue the contracts and hopefully be awarded them.
Wonderful. And again, I'll do a plug for our national network of 141 women's business centers across the country, plus our national network of nearly 1,000 small business development centers that you heard Michelle mention, as well as our national network of SCORE advisors and our Community Navigator national network, which was also recently launched. You can learn more about any of those resource providers or programs by visiting us online at sba.gov. With that being said, Candace, I'm going to move over to you with this same question, because I know that you all have a number of initiatives and programs at WIP that have really been designed to ensure that women have the resources and knowledge that they need. And I'd love for you to share any that either you all are leading or that you're aware are happening in the government or private sector.
Absolutely. You know, I would first say and echo everything that has been said, because WIP actually collaborates with many of the women's business centers, the small business development centers across the country, so that we can collectively build this ecosystem of success for our women business owners. One of the programs that we are super excited about is our Challenge Her program. And that is, we're celebrating our 10th year, and that's in collaboration with the SBA and American Express. And it is free and open to all, so that you can understand what it is to do business in the government, in the private sector and public sector. And also, are you ready? Because there are so many times we know that the government is the largest procurer of goods and services. However, are you ready for that? And making certain that you have what you need in order to be successful in that space. The other, I would say too, is to take advantage of the agency days. You know, all of the agencies have, days that they do education and outreach, community outreach, to really tell you about what is available within their agency, how to connect to their agency, and we partner with those agencies as well. And then WIP has a few other programs, our Pro Table Talk, which is procurement resources and opportunities, where we have subject matter experts to talk about everything from marketing to the government, finding the money, if you will. And I would say, by and large, in closing, that you should also be really, really familiar with the federal acquisition regulations, the FAR. That is one of the roads to success, if you will. And certainly, just go out there and make certain that you are taking advantage of all of these free resources that organizations like ours, the WBCs, SBDCs, and SBA has.
Wonderful. Candace, really quickly before we move on, could you share, for anyone who heard about any of the programs you mentioned, can you share where they may be able to find that information by just giving us your website?
Absolutely. That is WIP.org, WIPP.org.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll move now to Alicia. One of the things that Candace talked a lot about was the FAR, which you also kind of mentioned a little bit, Alicia, with some new exciting announcements, but also government workshops and government programs that may exist. And so that there's an entire suite of different types of certifications that one can get. You can be a women-owned small business. You can also be an 8A small business. You could be located in a hub zone and be a hub zone small business. You could be a veteran small business, potentially all at the same time, or one of the other. And these are all different certifications or licenses to hunt, as I like to say, that fall under the in your office, Alicia. And so are there any workshops or technical assistance forums that are coming up that folks should be aware of?
Oh, absolutely. And all of these programs, I just want to also just clarify that these are to help you're licensed to hunt in the federal marketplace. I really want to make sure that it's really critical in understanding these certifications are to assist you and to help you in opportunities that may become available in the federal marketplace. But doing business is still doing business. But the 8A Business Development Program does do a monthly straight talk, and they will be having an upcoming event of straight talk and just explaining the requirements of the program, as well as maintaining, once you're accepted into the program, the eligibility criteria. And then also our Hub Zone program has bi-monthly office hours, where they also assist those that are interested in the program, as well as those that are participating in the program. And Hub Zone is our historically underutilized business zones. So that is based on the location of the business and where it sits. So there are maps that outline what is designated as a hub zone in order to participate or seek certification in that program. So they conduct office hours bi-monthly that help individuals navigate that process. And then for the WASB program, we do have resources available on our website for the certification program in our knowledge base. And that is found on beta.certify.sba.gov. Again, that's beta.certify.sba.gov. No WW on the beginning, just write out the beta.
And Alicia, one of the things that I always like to say to folks, especially if they're thinking of starting the process of getting certified, is, similar to when you were applying to college, right? You may apply to multiple at one time, and there are various components of the application that are standard, right? You need to send in your transcripts. You're going to need to have a personal statement. You're going to need to have this, that, and this. And so as you were very clear about communicating, this was our programs at SBA give you license to hunt in the federal marketplace. And then the private sector has their own set of contracting opportunities. Your state government has its own set of contracting vehicles, county, city. But once you get your documents in order, for one, right? the types of things that they're asking you to have: your paperwork, your incorporation, your agreements, your information about your founders and CEOs and leadership team, your resumes, your financial statements. These are the college application, right? The universal college applications. You can just consider that. So as you get it done for one and start to look at the criteria for others, it's just important to have that set of paperwork readily available. And we noticed this also with the distribution of funding during disaster recovery time that we are all recovering from, which leads us to another point I want to make around the Community Navigator pilot program, which has brought to the forefront nearly 500 new organizations across the country that SBA did not previously have existing relationships with in some instances. As we continue to understand that we can do more to make sure small businesses everywhere in the United States of America have access to an accountant, legal representation, workshops, and training that are all culturally competent. And as we're kind of thinking about our respective role as government agencies, private sector entrepreneurs and business, and the nonprofit sector, Candace, I'll actually throw this over to you first. Should we be considering any additional partnerships or coordination with other SBA funded organizations and initiatives to support the overall growth of entrepreneurship across every main street in America?
Thank you for that question. I think it is really important, right? Collaboration is key. And so you just talked about the additional 500 relationships and partnerships that you have, the existing organizations right across the country. I think with what we have right now, right, the largest, I think, galvanized collaborative opportunity, right, in the history of the government for our women-owned businesses. I think now is time for us to take a concerted effort and look at what each of us is providing. And we know that right now, there's not a one size fits all. There are so many businesses with so many different life cycles, so many different needs, so many places that they are and so many places that they're going. I think with what we have now, it is the time to strategically provide the resources that's needed. So maybe a group of folks are providing the startup, how to open your business, how to start it, how to put your legal situation in place. The other is they need to focus on getting, customers or clients, right, into their restaurants and salons and all of that. And then you have another sector that they're ready to do business with the government. How do they do that, right? And then you've got another who may be already doing business with the government, but they want to expand that or either expand into private sector. So I think what we need right now is that each of us has as I call a swim lane, not a silo, because we want to see each other, right? So we don't need to have silos, but take our swim lane and just work the heck out of that swim lane so that we can get the appropriate resources into the hands of those who need it. And I think if it's done appropriately, it will sort of work cyclical. So you go from one swim lane to the next, right, as your growth trajectory from a woman's business perspective. So summarize that and say, yes, we have all of the right people at the table. Now is the time for us to work strategically together.
I love it. I'm actually going to dovetail off of that question to a question for you, Michelle. I'm going to assume that you are doing business in different verticals. You may have a government client, you may also have a private sector client. And we've kind of approached the question from how can government, nonprofit, and private sector support the ecosystem for entrepreneurs? I'd like to reframe that question and say, how can entrepreneurs engage with the government and private sector to ensure that they have a diversification of their client base? And is this something that you've had experiences in, and if so, what advice would you give someone who is thinking about diversifying that way?
Candace, in the environment that we're in, I should say Natalie, I was thinking about everything that Candace had said and it was so on point. Natalie, I think it's important for us to look at all of the different swim lanes that we can be in, whether it's at the federal, state, local, or county level, it's important to establish relationships and understand that we need to team with other companies, talking to other companies and reaching out and finding out who's doing what, and are there opportunities where we can go together and go after contracts, either on the commercial side or on the federal side. I've primarily been focused on the federal side, and I have some contracts that are on the commercial side, and all of those, I've made it a point to talk to industry leaders, to talk to other small businesses, and to team with them and work together for us to go after contracts that can meet the needs for both of our organizations. So I think it's important to continue to seek programs like that SBA Emerging Leaders Program. As Candace had indicated, some folks are at that entry level, but you still need help with the financial side of it, the marketing side of it. There needs to be something like that available for where we are in our life cycle of a business to make sure that we understand how to be successful and continue to grow. And I've been able to take advantage of those programs offered through SBA, but at the entry level, it's a little bit harder understanding what it takes to be successful, and having a program that would be targeted towards that would be incredibly helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your perspectives, Michelle. So we're at the halfway mark. This has already been an incredible conversation, and we're just kind of scratching the surface on some things. And I want to move into another area, which is about building your personal brand and a personal board of directors. We were very blessed to have our Women's Business Summit this week, and one of the speakers, many of them actually, talked about accountability circles and just general accountability as a small business entrepreneur. You know, they say you can go far by yourself, but you go further together, and or fast by yourself, but you go further together. And I believe that every entrepreneur needs a community of folks around them to support them through both the professional and the personal implications of what it means to be an entrepreneur. So, you know, let's talk about your personal net worth and networks. They say also that your network is your net worth. And so how have you used your personal and professional relationships to build a personal board of directors for yourself and a network of sound advisors to help you along your entrepreneurial or professional leadership experiences? We can also start with Michelle. Why don't we start with you again?
Trying to unmute. Sorry about that, had a little difficulty. Thank you. One of the things that I have done, we have a core group of 5 women small business owners that we meet on a regular basis and talk about our successes and our challenges and opportunities that are being presented. We throw out ideas of what we're thinking about pursuing. It's incredibly helpful to avoid dead ends, being willing to be vulnerable and share with a team of other business owners what you're trying to do and what path you're thinking about taking. I have another group of individuals that, and all the different lanes that I swim in, from accounting to legal to logistics, I have different leaders that focus on all of those. I also have business development folks that I talk to. I have a business development team of my own, but I talk to other business development leaders. What are you working on? What's working? What's not working? I made a decision early on in my career to have the professionals that I need to make my business go, such as an accountant. Even though I'm a CPA, I don't work in my business, I work on my business. I have a CPA team that I work with to make sure that they're managing the financials, that the bills are getting paid on time. I make sure that I'm working with an HR director who does the recruiting, the hiring, the personnel issues that need to be dealt with. Trying to manage all of those things on your own as a small business can be a little overwhelming. And so making sure that you're putting together a team of professionals who can help you manage the business aspect as well as the technical aspect of the business that you're actually taking on. So I've made sure that I pull those people to the table when we're trying to make important decisions, both internally with the team that I have and externally with the other small business owners, of what they're working on and how they're dealing with the roadblocks or the opportunities that are presented.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Alicia, I'm going to pose this question to you as well, more so from the perspective of the Mentor Protege program that the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development has. Can you share with the viewers a little bit more about that program, which I kind of think it's a little bit of an advisory kind of circumstance and accountability, learning opportunity for folks as it relates to this question.
Absolutely. You know, I hear from so many small business owners that it's very isolating, very lonely feeling running and operating a business at times because you are the decision maker. And so one of the components of the Mentor Protege program is to allow businesses to forge a relationship, a formal relationship with an existing company that's typically larger in size, and able to provide that a give back to the small business in the way of mentoring through technical assistance, and as well as kind of providing the lessons learned and the ropes of doing business with the federal government. So SBA's Mentor Protege program expanded to serve the entire small business community, where you would have to take the time to identify and engage with potential businesses to locate a mentor, and then you and that mentor would come to SBA and form a formal relationship, and that program would allow you guys to do business together and engaging in the federal marketplace. So I think that it goes absolutely to having that network of resources, because oftentimes those businesses that are mentors or serving as mentors are able to help bridge that capacity gaps. Those areas where your firm may not be able to successfully rise to that particular need, but with those added resources, you're able to capitalize and be very, very successful. So that will be the highlight of that program. And many, many firms have found it to be extremely helpful as they are continuing to grow their business and scale up to that next level.
Wonderful. So you've heard it here, folks. If you're looking to kind of establish a mentor relationship, you should check out the Mentor Protege program at the Small Business Administration. You've also heard from Michelle about her own personal board of advisors and not working in the business all the time while you're working on the business. And so next, Candace, as the CEO of a leading women's organization that has tentacles with women across the country, that engages with members of Congress, federal agency leadership, and business leadership. If you could share a little bit of your kind of gems of success or pearls of wisdom, as one would say, as it relates to personal relationships, building your board of advisors, and the journey to leadership for those women who are watching today.
Absolutely. I appreciate this. I think that this question sort of humanizes us as leaders, right? As we do lead organizations who assist, right, the women business owners across the country. I consider myself a quintessential servant leader. That's, as I say, that's how my mama raised me. And so my ecosystem is made up of people who hold me accountable, who cheer me on, who talk me into spaces that they know that I need to lend my voice to when I don't even know it, and certainly also provide me direction when I'm a little lost, if you will. You know, I'll use it in that perspective. And to humanize it a little bit more, you know, COVID has been really difficult, I think, for all leaders. And myself personally, I also experienced some health challenges during this time. So as I worked to keep our organization whole, to support the women business owners who so desperately needed us during a difficult time, helped corporations to put their resources in the right places, and of course supporting my family and friends, and then dealing with the loss of over 30 people during COVID while dealing myself with health challenges. I say all of that to say I would not be where I am today and here and sane with you all today without my strongly and fiercely protective circle. So I think it is so important for us, particularly as leaders who support so many people around us, to not be afraid to put on your mask first, as they tell you, right? When we are on the plane, that's the first thing, especially as women, because we have such a knack of helping everyone else around us and putting ourselves last. And so we know we cannot pour from an empty cup. So, you know, it's having that personal board of directors, if you will, that is literally your 360 ecosystem to help you in each part of yourself, just allows you that ability to show up as a great leader to then help those around you.
I love it. I always tell people that you are your first investment. You're absolutely right. It's hard to give when you have not given to yourself. And I also feel that until you are able to really operate at your most authentic self, what you bring to other people will not always be the proper representation of who you are. And so it's important for us to take some time to learn more about ourselves. And I think, one of the things that you mentioned, Candace, is really being gentle and patient with ourselves along this process. And I say that too for anyone who's thinking of starting a business or may have gone through significant lows with their business during COVID or even before, that it can be extremely personally, professionally, and financially challenging to be an entrepreneur. And there will be plenty of moments that you will want to give up. I know firsthand because I've had many different types of businesses, but it is going to be that health and wellness and commitment to taking care of yourself that Candace has mentioned that is going to give you what you need to be able to get back up the next day and go forward with the same type of veracity that you did the day before. So it's critical, it's important for you to take care of yourself. You are your first investment. So let's segue to another point and to another topic. It's actually about seeking investments. So after you've invested in yourself and you're thinking of investing in your business, or at least seeking capital for your business, entrepreneurship is often an opportunity for women to create wealth for themselves and for their families. Access to capital, however, remains a bit evasive for women entrepreneurs. And whether that be equity-based investments or debt financing, it's still a challenge, and doubly so for women of color. Can you provide any information on, what female entrepreneurs should consider in terms of different types of investment, the different forms of investment that they can go after, and the most important question, when should you actually go get capital? I will actually first start with you, Michelle, as the CPA on the call, and also as the entrepreneur.
It's delayed. Trying to get it unmuted.
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Well, I like to say what my mother always taught me. Don't wait till your well runs dry. Go and look for access to capital before you actually need it. Because you are going to need finances if you're going to get a contract, and you're going to have to hire people and need to pay them in a timely manner, because sometimes it can be a delay between when you do the work and when you actually get that first check from the government for the work that you have done. So it's taking a look at all the assets that you have available to you, whether that's through a line of credit that you have on your credit card, if a line of credit that you might have on your home, seeking out a banking relationship with your bank that you do business with, or where you get your payroll check put into, establishing that relationship early on so that when you need that capital, they know who you are, what your business plan looks like, having a business plan that actually shows that you have professionalized exactly what you're trying to do, making sure that you file the tax return and claim the income that you have earned so that they know that you are a legitimate business when you show up and say, I am in business and I would like some assistance with getting that funding. So handling your business on the front end so that when you do seek that help, it's available to it, but knowing to a penny almost how much access you have via lines of credit, credit cards, or a banking relationship, or going against your 401k and borrowing from it, knowing what the consequences are if that is what you have to do, because there can be some real serious penalties to taking money out before you're 59 and a half. So just making sure that you're aware, what are all the places that I can tap into? Is it from family, from friends, and being ready when you get that contract to be able to handle the responsibilities that come with it.
I love one of the points that you made, Michelle, which was really about good bookkeeping and documentation. And, thinking about that as it comes into play with access to capital, right? So, how does one know how much capital to give you access to if you don't know what your revenues were that year? If you're not able to demonstrate how much you brought in, or how much business is in the pipeline, right? For different types of loans, you may be looking for some type of receivable loan, right? But you have no documentation that you have a contract or an agreement with someone that has payments forthcoming to you. And so this goes back to, the whole piece around getting certified. It's about having your ducks in a row, right? And so when you go to your loan officer for whatever type of capital it is that you're going to receive, this is what they're going to want to know. It doesn't change. It won't change. It's standard across the board. How much did you bring in? What is your business model? And these things are critical. So I'm really thankful that you mentioned those key points, Michelle. I'm going to move over to you, Alicia. Are there any kind of financing programs that you're aware of that you have seen many government contractors taking advantage of, whether it be factorial financing, things of that nature, receivables financing? Are you aware of any? And if so, if you could share them with the audience.
Absolutely. So I have seen some small businesses that have utilized factoring successfully, but there are also many SBA lending programs that can help you get that initial capital for those contracting opportunities. So I would highly encourage going and visiting SBA.gov and reviewing the available loan programs that are present, but absolutely agree with everything that has been conveyed here about having your finances and documentation in order, and even to have those conversations with understanding what loan program may be possible for you. But I would also add the caveat that there are small business grants from a lot of lending institutions. So look into those as well. And a lot of those lending institutions, it may not even be a whole lot of grant funds that are becoming available, but it may be enough to get you started, to get those initial pieces in place, and then to be able to grow from there and leverage a larger or a more lending or loan in structure. So I would highly encourage to research a lot of the lending institutions that are out there in the marketplace to see, are there other mediums or mechanisms to be able to find and identify financing for your business.
Wonderful. And some of the programs that you were mentioning, Alicia, include from the Office of Capital Access, our 7A loan program, our 504 loan program, our micro loan program. And these are typically distributed through our network of more than 5,000 business and banking institutions across the country and financial intermediaries to the SBA. So you can go to SBA.gov in the financing section to learn more about the government supported programs, and then you would go to your local bank or CDFI to find out if they may offer that to you. And so just want to make sure that you all are very well aware of that. Candace, we talked a little bit. I think, the common misnomer is that there are all kinds of grants out here for folks, right? I have to tell you, in my more than 20 years of doing this, everybody always asks me, a grant, how a grant I can start my business, a grant to start my business. And I will honestly tell you, my philosophy on that is the first grant that you receive for your business is your permission, granting yourself the permission to invest in your business and to grant yourself the permission for the time that it's going to take of you to invest in time, talent, and treasure in your company. You have to grant first yourself the authority to be able to move forward with your firm. But with that being said, Candace, any grant funds that you're aware of? I'm sure you hear that question all the time as well.
I do hear that question all the time. And I think that both you and Alisa have summed it up perfectly from a public sector perspective, and tapping into all of the resources that the SBA has, because I think there are so many that people don't take advantage of. And then I'll just add two things to that. Right now in the private sector, right, was we've talked about that, right? And Michelle has talked about, doing business on both sides, public and private sector. There are many of the Fortune companies who have grant opportunities. And so I think that you should, seek those out. Certainly I would seek those out in the industries that I am in, right? So those Fortune companies within the industries that you're in, have a ton of resources and financial opportunities for women in business, particularly Black women and BIPOC women right now. The other thing that I would just say is this for all of our women business owners. One thing that I have found is that women business owners suffer from what I call application anxiety. And that is that they have counted themselves out before even putting themselves in the game. Absolutely, you should apply for grants, loans, whatever it is. Even if the answer is no, you will get to understand where you missed the mark on when you receive feedback from that. So I would say, by and large, everything that has said here, do that and don't count yourself out by suffering from application anxiety.
Can you all hear me? Okay,
yes.
Great. That's perfect. I love it, because you're absolutely right. Application anxiety can be real. And it also kind of comes down to really knowing what your strengths are, the type of business that you have, and the partners that you're looking for, in terms of not spreading yourself too thin, going and knocking on doors that are not really the right ones to open for you, right? And so this also goes back to the notion that all money is not the right money, that you want smart money, you want smart investment. All advice is not the right advice. You want smart folks around you who have an understanding of the industry that you're in, the type of business that you're trying to create, because you literally can run yourself to the ground, trying to run all over the place to connect with folks. And you need to be strategic and to be thoughtful and efficient with the use of all of your resources. And that includes your time, your talent, and your treasure. So with that being said, we're going to move into the last question of the day. This has been such a great conversation with all of you all. And, just really a quick speed round question. One major goal that you have as it relates to supporting women entrepreneurs in your organization. Obviously, today is the last day of Women's History Month for 2022. When you look forward to 2023 on the same day, what's one thing you want to have been able to accomplish to further the agenda of ensuring that women have an equitable seat at the table of entrepreneurship? I will start with you, Alicia.
Awesome. So under the theme of being intentional, I hope that is the message that we've conveyed today, is that I am going to intentionally make sure and ensure that we are doubling the number of women-owned small businesses that are participating in the Women-Owned Small Business Federal Contracting Program. That was a mouthful. So being intentional and making sure that there is an available pool that can do and participate in the federal contracting marketplace.
Wonderful. Michelle?
I am going to make an effort to team with one women-owned business that has reached out to me to bring them to the federal government as a teaming partner for a contract that I will pursue and hopefully win.
I love it. Teaming and partnership. And Candace, in conclusion, your final remarks in terms of what you'd like to see WIP doing next year this time.
All right, I'm an overachiever. I'm going to tell you my 3 things really fast, because that's how I function. This is the year of resiliency for WIP and its members. So we are going to continue to level the playing field for women in business by advocating for equality, equity, and parity for the WOSB program, and pressing upon our members to diversify their business portfolio by having customers in both public and private sector, And lastly, impress upon our members to seek out each other and utilize each other's services and products first, because that's how we're going to lead ourselves to growth and sustainability for all of the 12.9 million women-owned businesses in this country.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Candace came prepared. In fact, all of our panelists came prepared today. And so I just want to say thank you so much for all that you have brought to today's discussion. This brings us to the close of our conversation, and we've really had a great dialogue about what it takes to be a woman entrepreneur, and more specifically to succeed in the government contracting space. It's my privilege to moderate today's panel, and as we continue to uplift women entrepreneurs in their quest to maintain and grow their businesses across the country, I encourage you to check out one of the 141 women's business centers that are now in every state in the United States of America. And for those who may have missed a portion or two of today's program, please know that this webinar has been recorded and will be available to you on SBA's YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. For more information about SBA or any of our services and offerings, resource partners, and initiatives, please feel free to visit us at sba.gov. And don't forget to join us next time for another conversation on elevating small businesses as part of the Elevating Small Business series, where on May 26th, we'll be joined to talk about the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month experience and all the opportunities that exist for that community. Thank you again for tuning in. Bye-bye.